Live.
Yay, we are in the house.
Hey, oh, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah. Welcome to Mind and Money Matters live show. Uh, okay, what happened here? Um, we are in our 28th episode of our fourth season, bringing to you live the mastering the science of business tips and practices to help us to avoid the pitfalls and benefit from the wisdom of the success of those who are out there doing business, understanding that in our colleges and universities, the original HBCUs, it is written in the original charter to never teach us, according to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the science of warfare and the science of birth control, which the Honorable Minister Lord Farrakhan teaches us that business is warfare and birth control includes the science of mating. So there is no wonder why we have deficits in these areas. So we have committed, myself, Brother Jahi, and Sister Sandy Beauford Muhammad, to bringing to you each and every week wisdom from business owners in various fields and industries according to the 9 ministries. And this month, the month of July, is dedicated to education. Yay! That is my industry or ministry is education. And so I am very excited to take part in these conversations, all of them actually, but of course, education is my passion. And so we are looking forward to us conversating and learning from what we share with one another. So I would like to bring to you our dear Brother Jahi, Mr. Communicator Muhammad. He is our very own soul named by Sister Sandy Beaufort Muhammad logo file, which means the lover of words. Brother Jahi is the founder and CEO of Fallah Worldwide Seminars and Training and also Proper Propaganda Promotions. And he comes to us with the Fallah Worldwide Word on the Block. Brother Jahi.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of the definitive podcast for Black business bodaciousness. We all are in for a treat this evening. We have a lineup of some dynamic sisters, Sister Samia, Saafir Muhammad. You've met over the last couple of weeks. She's our special guest co-host this month as we delve into the ministry of education. And we also have another dynamic, brilliant sister who's very energetic and very knowledgeable about her subject matter, Sister Wanda F Muhammad. And so we can't wait to get to them. As you know, we must start out every episode with the final call. This is the latest issue of the final call. It has justice for Elijah Al-Amin, young brother that was killed by a person out in Arizona. That's the feature story. You must get your copy because this is some of the stuff that's not being, some of the news items rather that are not being talked about a whole lot in the news media, in the mainstream media, or in the media that most of us are used to getting our news from. But the final call has that. In addition to a plethora of other current event issues that I saw, there were a couple of articles in this particular issue that I want to bring your attention to because it's local, dealing with Atlanta. On page 29 of this issue, which is issue volume 38, number 42. and dated July 23rd. On page 29 is an article about a mother and 4 daughters who all joined, accepted their own, and registered in the Nation of Islam. A mother and 4 daughters here in Atlanta. Sister Anisah Muhammad, Sister Saafir Muhammad, Sister Baraka Muhammad, and Sister Aliyah Muhammad. And they all participated in the graduation, MGT graduation in 2019. Very dynamic, uplifting article, as well as other articles in here that are designed to help uplift us. So the Final Call, you can go to Final Call Digital, get your copy of the Final Call every week through a subscription, or you can check out the plethora of locations in your area. Here in Atlanta, there are numerous locations where you can pick up the paper. 3642 Camelton Road is one. That is the Southern Regional Headquarters of the Nation of Islam. 3642 Camelton Road. As a matter of fact, you can meet us there this evening. All men, it's an open FOI class, so you get a chance to come and get a peek at what we're learning in this dynamic international class. There are Black men all over, original men all over the planet Earth that participate in this class every Monday night. So you are welcome to join us. The class starts at 7:30 p.m. at your Muhammad Mosque, whatever city that you're in. Please go. But if you're here in Atlanta, you can join us at 3642 Camelton Road. 3642 Camelton Road. That's in the Ben Hill area of Atlanta. So, sisters, if you're listening, you have husbands, friends, sons, next door neighbors, send them to 3642 Camelton Road. If they need a ride, give us a call. Well, if you call me, I won't be able to answer right now. But if you text me, text us at 404-438-3156, 404-438-3156, and they would like to attend, but they need a ride. Give us a text, and we will make the arrangements to get the men in your life to this dynamic open FOI class, which open means you get a chance to see some of the things that we do that makes us the men in the community that we are, and eventually into the gods of the universe. Final Call, as I said, you can get the latest issue of the Final Call at Muhammad Mosque number 15. All right, and this is the economic blueprint. This is the 4th week of the month, or the third Monday? This is the 4th Monday. Wow, time flies. This is the 4th Monday of the month, so now it's time for you to go ahead and make your $1.40 a month contribution to economicblueprint.org. I was watching a commercial just last night. The ASPCA, Sister Sandy, the ASPCA, this what is American Society to Prevent the Cruelty for the Prevention of the Cruelty of Animals, right? Yeah. They were asking for $19 a month to save an animal. $19 a month to save an animal. Last year, fiscal year 2018, the ASPCA took in $248 million. $248 million. And they saved about 3,400 dogs. About 3,400 dogs that they saved. Okay.
Do you know how many people we can feed with that kind of money?
Right. For 200 and that's $19 a month. The economic blueprint of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan reinstituted is only asking us to give $18 a year. And if 16 million of us did that, that would give us $291,200,000 a year in the coffers, so we can buy land, and other resources that are needed in order to be a more sustainable and viable community. Only a nickel a day. That's what it breaks down to. Only a nickel a day. So if we can do that for the animals, we can definitely do it for the humans. For the humans. With the ASPCA, they say 63 cents a day. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad only said a nickel a day.
Look,
Right.
we can surely do it for the people who take care of the animals,
Come
okay?
on, that's right. That's right. A nickel a day, brothers and sisters. So go to economicblueprint.org and make your contribution. This is a busy weekend coming up, an extremely busy weekend here in the Atlanta area. So pull out your calendars. Pull out your calendars. Um, Friday evening, starting this Friday evening at the Loudermilk Center, downtown Atlanta, on at the corner of Edgewood and what's that street? Cortland, corner of Edgewood and Cortland at the Loudermilk Center. The student national spokesperson for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, Dr. Ava Muhammad, will be in the city of Atlanta this weekend. Starting Friday night, there is a discussion at the Loudermilk Center featuring Minister Ava, Minister Abdul Sharif Muhammad, the Southern Regional Representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, Brother Sharien Muhammad, the Student Regional Secretary of the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and Sister Taquela Muhammad, a community advocate and internet social media influencer, are the panelists for this discussion on Friday evening. Then on Saturday at Muhammad Mosque number 15, 3642 Hamilton Road, there is a town hall meeting about separation. Separation. I think we all know it's time. I mean, if the handwriting is not on the wall, if you do not see the handwriting on the wall, you just don't want to see it. But Minister Ava, Dr. Ava Muhammad will be one of the panelists at the town hall meeting. I think Sister Shireen attended the town hall meeting in Raleigh or Durham, North Carolina, about a month or so ago. So that Minister Ava was featured on. So she will be here in Atlanta this Saturday. And she's the keynote speaker at Muhammad Mosque number 15 on Sunday, July the 28th. July the 28th, Minister Ava is the keynote speaker at Muhammad Mosque number 15. Dynamic, brilliant sister. She's been a frequent guest here on Mind and Money Matters live show, an attorney, and she is the student national spokesperson for the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So those of you who say or you hear somebody talk about the women are oppressed in Islam, well, she's the student national spokesperson, dynamic, brilliant sister that's going to be with us this weekend in Atlanta. Also on Saturday, we have the 14th annual Back to School Jamboree. Hosea Helps 14th annual Back to School Jamboree. So you have children, school age, and they need supplies to get the school year started. Come to Georgia International Convention Center. That's in College Park, Georgia. The Georgia International Convention Center in College Park, Georgia, starting at 10 o'clock a.m. The activities start at 10 o'clock a.m. School supplies, book bags, haircut, hair done for the little girls, clothes, fresh vegetables, entertainment, book readings, book signings. Our very own Sister Shireen Muhammad is one of the featured presenters at the event at the Back to School Jamboree. Everything is free. Everything is free. All the services that Hosea Help gives is free. So book bags, school supplies, and also for the educators. For those of you who are teachers and you need a starter kit to help you get started, get the school year started, you come through as well. We have something for you also. So those are a few of the events that's happening in the Atlanta area. We plan to see you at, if not most of them, if not all of them, most of them. So that's it for me right now from Falah Worldwide Word on the Block. And I don't know where she disappeared to. She was on first. And now, as I began to bring her up, she disappears on me. There she go. Our sister who is very energetic. Those of you who saw the text message I sent out earlier, I proclaimed this as the most energetic, educational, and empowering business podcast on social media. Yeah, I said it because of my dynamic co-host and special guest. So to bring that energy, please welcome from Soul Wisdom International and Your Life Center, Sister Sandy Beauford Muhammad.
Hi, salam alaikum.
Wa
What's up?
alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, now follow that. No, he said that and then got gone. All right, Brother Jahi, you know you got to translate that for us and our listening audience. I love it, love it, love it. What's up, Hotep, Ashe, and all of that good stuff. I am your sister, Sandy Beauford Muhammad of Soul Wisdom International. I am pumped up, y'all. We have a little clip that will be coming up shortly at the end of the show. So you've got to stay tuned of a phenomenal interview that we did with our beloved brother, Maceo Brown. I don't know if you've ever heard of brother Maceo Brown. You need to Google him. He is the CEO of System 5 Electronics, the only Black-owned security system in Georgia, I believe, in Georgia, maybe the southern region. It may be even, that's a question that we needed to ask him. So please stay tuned to that interview. And before I leave you today, I'm going to share some insights that I got as an entrepreneur, as a woman-owned business, as a mom, as an auntie. I'm going to share that with you in just a second. I want you to make sure that you go to Soul Wisdom INTL and look at the events page. We have Reiki workshops that are coming up every month. You are welcome to register. And guess what? You get to bring someone for free. So make sure you go to soulwisdomintl.com. As well, please check me out. Sandy Beauford Muhammad is right here on the screen. If you don't know how to spell the Beauford part, and the Muhammad part is right here on the screen. Make sure you check me out every Wednesday between 9:45 and 10 a.m. where I'm bringing to you Sandy's Wednesday Corner. And I'm talking about universal laws. Universal laws are those laws that govern this particular dimension that we're in. They're universal laws. The law of attraction, the law of threes is what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. Wednesday. Sorry, moving a little ahead of myself. On Wednesday, I'll be talking about the law of threes. Anybody ever heard of the law of threes? Where one or two are gathered, there's always a third. Y'all heard of that? That's that special energy that bonds, that expands the two that are gathered in the name of goodness. I don't know if that's true, if it's only present in the name of goodness. If two people are, if you coming together for goodness, then that third is present. But that's what I'm going with. If you doing anything other than goodness, that three ain't gonna be there. I don't think so. But yeah, so that's what we'll be talking about. Sister Samia thought that was funny. But that's what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday, Sandy Wednesday Corner. We're also, I don't know if Sister Shireen is busy, but sometime during the show, I pray that she's able to pull up the women's retreat little spiel that I wanted to share with you all. If you are interested in attending the women's,
where is it?
From the one you did from last week is perfectly okay.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The one that you did from last week is perfectly okay. So the women's retreat, it is called the inner chambers. Ooh, can you feel what that means? The inner chambers. That is going within. You and I are gods, many gods of the universe. We are original people. We are gods of the universe. Thank you so much, Sister Shireen. .com. She did .com. So it's soulwisdomintl.com. Please go to that. It's okay, beloved. Please go to, look, I love it. Check her out on the fly. Look at that. Sister Shireen is the bomb. You'll see some beautiful pictures that she put together for us that I sent over for you of the location that we're going to be at. We only have a limited amount of seats. And this right now, it's invitation only right now. We have not made it public yet. It's invitation only. So if you're interested in attending the Inner Chambers Women Retreat, which is next year, April 2020, you need to send me your email address, and you can text it to 770-906-6193. And you can email me at soulwisdom2, the number 2 at gmail.com. Last thing I want to show you Can you see this little crystal right here? Can you see this little crystal? Am I on the screen, Sister Shireen? For everybody to see this little crystal that I want to show them. Let me see. Can you see that?
It's quite large.
It's actually, it looks larger on screen than it actually is. It's probably only about 2.5 inches long. I have had a specific request. I actually gifted someone this particular necklace. And I have had people requesting this crystal being wrapped all day long because I gifted it to someone. And so if you're interested in ordering crystals like these, this particular one is called the labradorite stone. Hook me up. I've already said the contact information. Give me a buzz, give me a call, send me a text message. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is what I gained, the insight that I gained from meeting our beloved brother, Maceo Brown. The first thing is he gave our beloved Minister Louis Farrakhan, a shout out. He said it is because of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that he actually got the energy to step out and do his business. He inspired him. All he did was herd him. Now, he's not in the Nation of Islam. We want you to know, to be inspired by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you don't have to be in the Nation of Islam. If what you hear, you believe it is true and good for our people, you take it and you make your life and your community life better than what it was. And that's what our beloved brother did. He heard the minister, like most of us have, and stepped out and made it happen for him and his family. And now he has 15 employees. I believe he was much larger. He downsized because of some health challenges. But the interview that you will be hearing today on the show, you're going to hear just a clip of it, is so profound. And then the last insight that I got from our beloved brother Maceo Brown, when he said, he's a Christian. I believe he professes himself as a Christian. He didn't say I'm a Christian, but that's what I believe he is. He said, when I went to a specific church, I wanted to join them. I was at a specific church and then I switched churches. And when I came in and I had a conversation with the pastor said, brother, you're in the business of security. You have the contract to do all of the security system in this building. That's what I'm talking about. We are always talking about partnering up. Partnership is key. We're always talking about pooling your resources, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us. Pooling your resources. When that pastor told him that, he immediately joined the church. Now, I'm not saying that that's why the brother joined the church. I'm not saying that. But I understand that when you are giving of your wealth, your finances for a service that someone can give you something back in return, that is how we are to cycle the dollar in our community. So it's a whole lot of more stuff I can speak on what Brother Maceo spoke to us about, but I'm gonna stop it right there because we got a whole phenomenal show coming up. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring our beloved Sister Shireen, if she's ready right now. I know she's at the boards. My God, we love Sister Shireen Muhammad. She is author of the Agri-Child series. Have you seen little sweet Khadijah? Have you seen our beloved little Elijah? Have you seen their books? Have you shared the information that's shared in the books? Have you purchased your book? We want you, because remember, we just finished talking about pooling our resources. We want you to help our sister so that she can steal away. She's always talking about this show is her classroom and that she's got a full-time 9 to 5, or sometimes it's after 5 and sometimes it's to 10 or 11, depending on what season we're in. I can bear witness to that. My beloved sister is working hard for our 9th to 12th graders, high school level. I'm telling you, we want her to be able to steal away whenever it is that she's ready to do that. But we've got to support her. What she is doing is giving our babies information to inspire them to be self-employed, to be self-sufficient, and to build a nation. So we need you to support her. When she bring her stuff up on the screen, I want everybody who's listening to order at least one book and to register with the NOI program at $18 a month. That's all that we're asking you. That's all we're asking you. Okay, so I want to bring up our beloved sister, the mastermind behind the boards. If you was at the beginning of the show, you would know that we were waiting on her. We love her, we honor her, and we appreciate her. Welcome, our sister, your sister, Shireen Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Lord have mercy. It's a bit much over here. All praises due to Allah. I am so excited about getting into the conversation about adult education. I mean, reading up on the state of adult education in 2000 and as of 2018, we could assume that it's similar in 2019, where 32 million Americans are considered to be illiterate according to the National Education Department. That's 32 million. And so my question and concern has been, since I saw that number, like 32 million, you know how many zeros is after that? Like, wow, that's a lot of us. So how does it affect us as particularly business owners? Because my attention is on business owners. So I'm wondering, how does that affect the business owner? And I know that there are business owners out there, I know some of them, who are illiterate, but they are still able to run a healthy, prosperous business because they have excellent business acumen. But they are relying upon others who know how to read to help them read very important documentation, and they have to trust that they can, that they will have their best interest in heart as they interpret these documents for them. So I'm just wondering the impact that it has. I was also concerned about, the stigma and embarrassment that one may feel in an environment of someone who is quote unquote articulate, or we're passing around, the assumption amongst us a lot of times who read is that everyone reads. And so you're like, oh, could you read this? Or did you see this? And you pass it and here, look at this. And they go, oh, no, not today, or whatever. They have a reason for not reading it, or take a look and go, oh, not now, I don't have my glasses, or whatever excuse they give. But no one really, I haven't come across one who may have difficulty or may not have a level of reading high enough to read the average news article or what have you, to actually admit, oh, I don't know how to read, so that's something for a person who's in the business of education, adult education in particular, to take into consideration of how do we get an adult to feel comfortable to come forward. I mean, we we're in the age of coming forward, right? Of coming out and speaking our truth and all this, but we speaking our truth about education and the fact that we may or may not know how to read or know how to read with comprehension. When we say that, we assume comprehension is attached to that, but some of us may know how to read some words and then we still don't comprehend. So it's still like, I mean, there's just so many different things. I'm looking forward to speaking to the experts about this. Adult education, that's what's happening today. Is adult education. So that is what's on my mind. And those of us who are in the field of writing books like myself, I wanted to give to us some tips on how to market your book. We write books, many of us, and we have a challenging time with getting that book sold. So, what do we do to get that book sold? The tips that I have, if it will show itself at some point, is one, throw a book party. right? This is something that I got off of the internet. You can Google it yourself as well. And it's easy, nowadays to just Google things, right? But let's schedule a book party. Let's see, let me know that you have done so and let me know how that has gone. Another one is, visit your local bookstores and libraries. See if you can get your book added to the catalog of libraries, have it on the shelf of bookstores, compile a list of reviewers, get some prominent, respectable individuals in the reader's world to review your book and get them to add their comments about what they think of your book. And maybe their suggestion would be to make some improvements, and you would have, as the author, the opportunity to either receive their criticism or their advice and heed it, or apply it, or you say, nah, that's not really works for me. But you have that right as the owner of that. Compile a list of retailers, those who would sell books. There's many groups and types of stores, not just bookstores, that sell children books. Offer school visits. Get on the list as a volunteer at a school for the age group that you are targeting, and read to the children. Produce instructional aid to go along with the book. Supplemental material is what is referred to as. And that, having students be able to answer certain questions that proves that they read it or engages them in the process, things like that. Join organizations. There's many of them out there. You just Google the organizations related to children books or Black books or any kind of whatever your topic is, science books, um, agricultural books, what have you, and join those organizations and attend events. Many organizations have annual events. These are ways of getting your name out there and you becoming aware of what is available as certain trends begin to change. So that is what I have for you from the Focus on the Children's Corner. And when we educate an adult, particularly a mother or woman, we educate a village. So we're going to get into the conversation of adult education. But before we do that, we're going to introduce our dear Sister Samiyyah Muhammad. You have met her, those of you who have been watching, and some of you are going to meet her today. She is the proud mother of 9. She and her husband, who she is now widowed, raised 9 beautiful children who are now full-fledged adults, yes. And she is in the history books at the AU Center. That's the Atlanta University Center, Morehouse College, for having the largest number of sons to graduate from Morehouse College. So there is some things that we can learn from her. I had one to graduate from Morehouse and one to graduate from Clayton State University, but this sister has had 6 to graduate from Morehouse College. So we certainly want to learn from her, and she was able to have a long-lasting marriage. So that's a whole nother topic. And we talk about being educated, like what is important, really, the importance is the family and building upon that family. And whenever you see her family interact, it is like, wow, the love, the energy, the support that is shared. I had the opportunity to see her grandsons compete in martial arts this past weekend at the Black Karate Federate. Is it the Black Karate Federation? That's what it is. The Black Karate Federation celebration. They had the 50th anniversary celebration for Sijo Steve Muhammad, and it was absolutely beautiful to see the number of master level martial artists in attendance, including one of her sons. And, it's just a phenomenal thing. So let's bring on our dear sister Samia, Saafir Muhammad.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. Good evening.
Wa alaikum salam. I'm gonna need to like be with you. We pick out our outfits, because we kind of like blending. This is like the third week in a row. Like, what's happening?
Adult education.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you can tell by the people who voted for Trump, something's wrong with the education in America. Okay, let's go right there with that. Anybody who can read should have known this is not the person you want, but you know, they don't know how to interpret what they're hearing, so they got duped. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, but adult education, the sister who's coming up, Sister Wanda and I have put together an adult reading course, and it's an 8-week course. We started it, and we inshallah we will start up again. But this was back in 2005, 2006. Anyway, but the course, we deliberately did not name it a literacy course because people are not going to admit that they're illiterate. So we named it an English mastery course. And that's that's better for the people to be able to take on their palate. So what it is we teach them how to read, and they get a chance to take what they've learned and apply it to a project by the end of the 8 weeks. But there are many, many adults who can decode. For example, they'll look at that sign behind you and they may say, mind, money matters. Okay. But they have no idea how that fits together and what that means. They can sound out words, they can read sentences, but they don't know how to comprehend because there are keys to reading and nobody's taught them that. Or they really just were passed along in school because that's what happens. You get, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't have 3/4 of my class to move on. So I'm going to move you on. I'm going to say you can read, right? But so we have people who really don't know how to read. Now, to me, the key to getting someone to read is to give them a book that they fall in love with. Now, how did that happen with me? I was, I think I was in maybe 5th grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. And I don't know what I did, but I know I was under punishment for a week during the summer. My aunt told me, you cannot go outside. So now back then, we weren't bold like these children. We're not walking out no door if adults told us do not go outside. So I ended up reading a book. And that was my company. I wasn't to watch any television and it wasn't to go outside. So I found this book and it was To Kill a Mockingbird. And I was reading the book. And when I got to the last 3 pages and I realized that the book was about to end, I was crying because I was losing my friend in this book.
Wow.
So when you can get a book like that in the hands of a child and make them fall in love with reading, then you got a lifetime reader. So that happens again with adults. So I have some books I want to recommend at some point, not necessary right now, but books I believe that will make people, once they've mastered how to read, fall in love with reading. And then we've got to change our culture around right now. We're so busy electronically, everything's push button, electronic, let me read this on my tablet. But reading is a very solitary type of activity where you're going to sit in a chair or wherever you are, and you and this book become one. And a lot of people don't want to give their spouses, their children, their parents this space to do that. So reading becomes something that gets pushed to the side. So what we do is we read, little short stuff, text message, that's fine. But to get into a book and to put time into it and have that book become a part of your life, that's an experience that every adult should have the privilege to do that. So when you get books that people, I remember one of my sons calling me because one of my favorite authors is Toni Morrison, and he had picked up the Song of Solomon. And he called me, he said, Mommy, why can't I put this book down? I said, because she wrote it that well, because that was the one book she said she wrote for men, for Black men. And she had to get into the mindset of one of our men in order to, but it's a powerful book. So he was like, why can't I put the book down? I said, because it was well written. So anyway, that's my thing about adult learning. We have to be get over the embarrassment of saying we don't know something. I'm for one, when it comes to computers, I like, yo, come here, Chandra, Fatima, somebody, come, I need some help because I don't know how to do that well. I can get some things done, but if I like, come on, do this for me. I don't mind. Even in class, if my students ask me a question, I'm not gonna sit there and pretend I know. I like, you know what? Let's look that up because I don't know that. That's not something that I've mastered. So let's learn it together. So if we get over the embarrassment of not knowing how to read, of not knowing how to write, all of that goes together. The reading, and I'm finding another part of our problem is we don't listen to each other anymore. If you turn on any talk show nowadays, news or whatever, everybody's talking over top of each other. I'm like, we're not communicating anymore. So all of this is a part of what we teach in how to master English. Okay. So and the reason we call it the English mastery also is because the Honorable Miss Louis Farrakhan said we must master English because that is the language we were tricked in. And if we do not master English, we will fall for the same kind of trick again. So we have to master the subject of reading, the subject of English. Okay.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. But there was something I was going to say to what you said. You mentioned getting them to fall in love with give them, did you say give them a book that they will fall in love with?
No, you have to have read some books and recommend the book to the child. Say, look, I got this book, because you have to kind of know your student. I have a book that's called
so get them a book that would relate
right.
To them.
Exactly.
Something excellent.
So there's this little brother, I gave him this book called Gabriel because I read it over the summer. The book was about a 14-year-old who was having problems because he thought he knew more than his parents. He went off and had this adventure, and his whole thing was trying to get back home. So that was his whole story. So, you have to kind of know your students. Say, well, okay, try this book. And I always tell students, they're like, oh, it's boring. I said, did you hit page 25 yet? No, hit page 25. And if you still don't like this book, then you can switch the book. Well, usually by the time they get to page 25, they're hooked, because what children have and other people have to understand about a book is not a movie. The author has to create the background, has to create the mood. All of that comes with the words that they're putting in the book. So it's going to take a little bit more time than you sitting down in front of a movie and getting grabbed by the movie. So I always tell them, okay, get to page 25. If you don't like the book, then I'll let you exchange it. Most times I've carefully picked the book and that I know that this student will like this book. So that's kind of what we have to do. We can't get the children books that they just hate because they'll not like reading. And that happened with one of my sons. He was an avid reader till he got to the 4th grade. 4th grade, he stopped reading. So we had a conversation about it one time. I said, why did you stop reading? He said, because they started making us read books that we didn't want to read. I'm like, okay. So now he fell in love again with books when he got the Star Wars series and then Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter books are like 500 pages, and these children were devouring these books like crazy because it was something that kept them energized and they fell in love with. So you don't want to give a child or even an adult a book that's just boring. You got to kind of figure out, well, what do you like, and give them a book that will inspire them. They got to fall in love with reading, and that's the key to me.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. There was something else that you mentioned to get over the embarrassment. Have you found what helps to get adult learners over the embarrassment?
They have to trust you that you will not look down on them, that you are really there to help them. And I always tell them, it's not your fault if you can't read.
That's right.
That means at some point, something was skipped that somebody didn't catch that you didn't understand. So don't worry about it. Let's start from the beginning. Let's go all the way back, and I'm going to show you how to construct the language piece by piece. And with each piece that you put together, you're going to become a stronger reader. I had a sister. She was a whole lot older than me. And she came to me. She said, Sister Samia, I have a problem with my reading. I can read, but I don't think I read well enough. So I told her, well, come on, let me know when you can. And, so we would sit in my office and she came for about maybe 6 or 7 times. And we just started from the very beginning and started all over again. There were certain things I told her, and she reads very well now. And she always tells me, that really helped. So they have to know that we care enough about them as persons, and we're not looking down our nose at them because they don't know something. No, each one's supposed to teach one. I'm responsible. If I really want for my brother and sister what I want for myself, then I want you to be able to read. Because that way you can be a better helper in us bringing up our nation. And you're out there selling the final call. If you can't read it well, then you can't sell it to the people. You have to know this is the article and this says this. So, the care of and the love for our people will allow us to help them get over the embarrassment of not knowing how to read. Because like I said, I don't know how to do computers that well. I don't know how to fix the cars, but I'm gonna go get a mechanic. I'm not gonna feel bad because I don't know how to change a tire. Okay,
right.
I can learn how, but right now I don't know how to do that. And I need this in my life. So we have to. The love that we have for our people will allow them to get over, because we got to look at, and then we can explain it to them this way. The fact that we can read at all, the fact that we can speak at all is a miracle. When you have people who would determine never to let any light of knowledge ever get to us. Now, here we were, you spoke Igbo, I spoke Zulu, you spoke Fulani, this one spoke Fulani, and we got thrown together because if you and I spoke the same language, one of us was going to get killed or sold off. So we had to overcome all of that, and then we produced scholars, back then, like Frederick Douglass and people. How did they do this? You see, so we have to kind of bring that history and show them that you have overcome this struggle just to be here and be able to speak articulately or speak at all, because if it was up to them and they had convinced us that we were not human enough, that we'd be right here grunting and carrying on. But the God spirit in us refused to die, and we kept striving, and we just overcame all that they put in front of us. So there's a book on that. It's called Night Fox. I can't remember the author's name right now, but you can look it up. It's called The Night Fox. And he would go around and to the plantations and teach people how to read. And of course he got killed, but it's a story that will help our young people to understand the importance of reading, so we have to be careful the books we give them and give them books that will inspire them. And the same with adults. So,
does anyone have any questions for Sister Samia? Are we ready to bring up our next guest?
No, this would be a perfect time to bring in Sister Wanda.
Yeah.
Right. If I could do the honors, I would love to bring up our beloved Sister Wanda. First of all, I have to say thank you so much, Sister Wanda, for being on the show. When I saw your name, I was like, yes. We had just finished talking about this. So I'm going to read her curriculum vitae, brief introductory.
What's that? What that mean?
Yeah, Sister Wanda been around for a while, Brother Jahi.
What is a curriculum vitae?
When you've been in the field for 30 plus years, you no longer have a resume. You have what is known as a curriculum vitae, a brief synopsis of the many, many accomplishments that you've done in your life. So
that sounds right fancy.
Okay. Love it. So Sister Wanda F Muhammad has served Head Start and child care communities for over 30 years. And look at her, y'all. She don't look a day over 30, but she got grandbabies, okay? I don't believe it. For over 30 years in a variety of roles. She holds a BA in child development and a MA in early childhood education. She is certified as a professional facilitator, a professional learning community facilitator. So you're going to tell us the difference between those, because one has a community in it. That must be talking about some of us. Then she is a class observer and a KODO, KODO trainer. She is also a level 3 Georgia Bright from the Start trainer. Wanda's passion is supporting individuals and organizations to allow them to tap into their power to achieve impactful results. Her most recent contributions include serving as an expert coach. Okay, so that's where the curriculum vitae come in at. When you become an expert in your field, she has served as an expert coach for practice-based coaching and a class, capital CLASS, reviewer for the Office of Head Start. She is also my big sister who's known me since I was in high school, and I'm not going to tell y'all my age, but I'm over 30. And I have loved her family, her husband, her late husband. She is as well a widow who have birthed phenomenal children, phenomenal grandchildren. And she's really, really blossoming into that person that I always knew she would be. So welcome to My Money Matters Radio, our beloved sister, Wanda F Muhammad.
Thank you, Sister Sandy. And I'm smiling listening to you read that bio. It's kind of funny. I don't think about it until someone reads it. And I just want to thank all of you for inviting me. I am so honored to be among just some mighty warriors, gods who are out here on the battlefield, not only individually, but collectively with this program. I know your work. I've worked with Brother Jahi, Sister Sandy, Sister Samia. I haven't had the pleasure to work with Sister Shireen directly, but have admired her work with being in the educational system from afar. So thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So you've been listening into the conversation as we've been talking about education, and I know you about to just jump up out of your seat because you was like, yes. That is exactly what it is. So let's open the floor based on what you've heard so far. Are there any particular points that you'd like to pull out before we start talking maybe a little bit more specific about what it is specifically that you do? Is there any insight you'd like to share with us based on what it is that you've heard?
Yes, so much. You know that I'm connected and feeling my sister Samia. She and I worked together. Me at one point, the coordinator, her now the student coordinator over the Ministry of Education. And she talked about the course that we developed, but we had so much fun. I will never forget us taking, Sister Samia, that trip to Chicago to the Ministry of Education conference. And Sister Samia was so funny. We flew. And she was like, girl, listen, what was it, a Lincoln Continental? She said, we're going to ride in style. We deserve it. We have put our time in, and we've done a lot of wonderful, wonderful work together in the Ministry of Education. And so she touched on a couple of things that are relevant to the topic at hand. And I'd like to expand on it a little bit because my background is, as you said, in early childhood education. And the study of reading and learning how to read in young children led me to be vigilant and adamant about adult education. So what I mean by that, I was always fascinated with how young children learn how to read. And when I went into my master's program, I decided to focus on language and literacy. And as I was doing the research, some of the research that I found was in alignment with what you all were talking about adults not being able to read. But what was striking to me is that the teachers in my field, many of them are illiterate.
Right. Yeah.
And I knew it because I would go in the classroom and here they are reading a preschool book to young children and mispronouncing the words.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it troubled me deeply because how can you teach a 3 and 4-year-old not just how to read, but how you can develop their language when you yourself do not have mastery? And I was really struck by that. So I decided to write my capstone, which is very similar to a thesis, if you will. And it is a culminating project that you do when you are, when you're going through your master's program. And my capstone was linking in literacy instruction for young children to literacy instruction for adults, trying to attack it in a way that you're not saying, okay, y'all are teachers and y'all can't read. What's up with that? So I actually, and here's my capstone. Y'all, this company tricked me into publishing it.
Wow.
But they never marketed it or anything. So I got a copy of it. But the capstone was actually a project that was designed to address workforce literacy with early childhood teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And what I proposed is that these teachers would, just as a part of their regular assessment, take an assessment so that we could see where they were lacking, and then use the instruction for young children to actually help them.
Right.
So part of that is, and let me go back for a little bit. So in studying how young children develop language, even before literacy, because oral language develops before the written word. The written word is oral language on paper. Right. There are some areas that are critical, and that as young children, if you do not master them, like Sister Samia said, something got skipped, it carries over into adulthood. So you have vocabulary. Mm-hmm. So you know that if your vocabulary is weak, when you're reading this awesome literature, we know what happens. You can't get past what you're reading because you get stuck on a word that you don't understand. Now, even if you go and parse the word, it interrupts what they call fluency. So you don't read fluently. So what happens? You get frustrated. Right. Because now you're in the middle of something and you don't forgot whatever you were reading. Because why? Because now you're stuck on this word. So vocabulary is one of the areas. Another area is comprehension, which is affected by vocabulary, and that's understanding. If you don't understand what you're reading, that's where the frustration is. That's where it becomes boring. Another area is auditory processing. And in young children, y'all, that really starts with young children being able to distinguish between a dog barking and a car honking. Right. So as you get, if they don't learn that discrimination, as they get older, they cannot differentiate between the sound of a B and the sound of a P. Right. So then it's hard to decode because you don't understand what's called phonics or phonological awareness. In other words, you cannot take a word and break it down into syllables. You cannot break it down into what they call phonemes, which are the individual sounds, so that you can decode. So, they took phonics out of training, reading training. Sister Samia and I kind of talked about that. We reincorporated that into the course that we did, because if you can't decode, how are you going to read? Exactly. So all of this really, believe it or not, starts at an infancy. When children are very young, they need to be hearing different sounds. Go ahead, Sister Samia.
And we have to, as adults, speak to them, speak language, and make them talk back to us in full sentences, not with sounds, not with things like that. We have to force them to speak properly to us, and that all of that helps with their development. You can't. What is that? I had some children come to school one time, and they're like, "Nuh-uh." I'm like, wait, stop, hold on. Where is that in anybody's dictionary?
That's Southwest Atlanta.
So, you cannot speak like that during school hours. You do that at home, but when you come,
Atlanta speak.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's true.
Sister Wanda, I have a question for you. Something you just said. Who has a vested interest in denying us the ability to read and to comprehend? You just mentioned that the phonological
awareness
was taken out of the reading program. Who are the scholars? Because I've come to understand that a lot of these movements start from a think tank, educational think tank, or whatever that think tank is of that particular industry. What is the argument about having that removed? And how do those who are in leadership positions go along with it?
Well, I will say this. I don't know specifically about the removal of phonological awareness. We have seen that there are many things that have been removed, such as recess. And we know that children have to get fresh air and they have to run around so they can think. However, I will say, if y'all familiar with Abu Petrie's book, The Pedagogy of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in that book, he talks about how the school system was actually designed from on high by the Rockefellers and other powers that be. And it was designed to make better slaves.
Right.
So they don't want our children to think. So he actually uses a couple of terms that we've coined called sit and get, chalk and talk. So sit and get means you sit, you shut your mouth up, and you get what I give you. Chalk and talk, I'm gonna write on the board and you're gonna sit here and copy this, but we don't want you to think, we don't want you to speak. And so as Sister Samia is saying, you know, children are not allowed to talk in school. Who ever heard of such a thing? How are you going to master the English language unless you're actually having conversations? Conversation is one of the skills that you develop in oral language.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is in early childhood, all of this is being promoted heavily through the early learning standards. And so if you go into a Head Start classroom, not as much with childcare, but it's starting to spill over into childcare, those teachers must be promoting language development. It is one of the early learning standards. And so the standards that come under that is that children are supposed to be able to use language for a variety of purposes. They're supposed to be able to label things properly, call them by a proper name. The phonological awareness piece comes in because what's happening is they cannot enunciate their words. So you ask a child, so you know how they talk, Sister Samia, you ask them something and you think that the child is speaking a foreign language.
That's right.
You can't understand what they're saying.
Yes.
They're swallowing their consonants. They're not pronouncing the words completely. So the issue with the adult education piece really does start in infancy.
And the adults who are in their lives, if they are not, if they don't know, then they give their children the bad habits because they do not speak properly to the children. And then the children just copy whatever they hear in the home. So we have to undo that. You know, I've had students had one brother come to me. He was supposedly in the 7th grade. I had him to, first of all, speak to me, and I'm looking at him like, what? Then I looked at I said, bring your notebooks. I looked at his notebooks and I'm like, your teacher accepts this from you, this kind of writing? Okay, so we had to do penmanship. We had to go all the way back to the beginning, and I had to teach him the sounds of the letters and how to construct. And then I had to teach him how to read all over again because he read a book. And when I asked him what the book was about, when he gave me his summation, I'm like, no, wait, you couldn't have read that book. And is that all you got from this book? So, you know, it's a process. We really have, this is why our adults need, you know, the Master Farah Muhammad asked us to do what? Have a temple reading class. He knew. He knew that too many of us did not know how to read well. Some of us, like I said, we can pronounce words, but we can't read. So we have to, you know, get back with that and make sure our parents can teach our children properly.
I want to go back to what Sisters Shireen was saying about teaching women. So we have to, in our classes that we have, in our parenting classes, teach our parents, teach mothers and fathers these basic things about having conversations with your children, about making sure even little babies, the things that you can do, you know, we not to do baby talk with them, talk to them in, you know, in the King's English, that's the language that we are under right now, but speak to them in a way they can understand it. And you all know many babies, when you see that you talk to them that way, they come right back at you with those vocabulary words and they get it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Sister Sandy, you were going to say something?
No. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. And Brother Jahi actually asked the question, who has a vested interest in us not reading? And I want to expand upon, you've done something very phenomenal, Sister Wanda. What was not a part of your bio, which is how you were able to, what we call here at Master the Science of Business, My Money Matter Radio, you were able to steal away. Okay, so there was a moment in time that you were doing this for someone, and some type of miraculous way, you found a way how to steal away and create a true, I'm going to call it an empire on your own to do what it is that you love. So in this process of us talking, I'd like for you to share with us a little insight from the business perspective, what you have such a passion for, because our brother Maceo Brown said, when you do something that you have a passion for, which y'all got to stay to the end of this radio, to this end of this show, so that you can get a nice little clip of what he's sharing with us. But he said to us, because brother, I believe Brother Jahi asked the question, how is it that you can continue on doing what it is that you do, beloved Brother Maceo, for all of these many years? And the key point that he said was you have to have a passion for what it is that you do. And listening to you, Sister Wanda, it's obvious that you have a passion. However, it didn't start out like this. You were doing something else for somebody else, and then you carved out a niche, a specialty, something that allowed you to do it in such a passionate way. Could you share a little bit from the business perspective about that?
Yes, ma'am. So you said I found a miraculous way. I will say this, like most of us on this show, and many, not just believers in the Nation of Islam, but Black people want to do for self. They want to have their own business. And I'm learning that it is not that easy to do. So the miraculous thing that happened was I got kicked off the plantation.
That's usually what happens. That's good motivation. Yeah.
I got laid off, and it was so interesting because I was working at a professional job. Sister Shireen, you might remember, I was a consultant at a consulting firm, a prestigious consulting firm in Atlanta. Like Sister Sandy said, doing what I do. And they shifted their focus. And they did what folks do out there in the world, the corporate world, was they didn't bother to kind of inform us what was happening. And they were shifting their focus. They were running out of money to do projects because the very things that I'm talking about, they were getting grants to do. And one Monday morning, I got called down the hallway, just out of the blue, put your keys on the table, you're done after 13 and a half years. Wow. And so I was like, okay, thank you, Allah, because I wanted to leave anyway. Now you just forced me to leave. But I think the key thing for me was I did not want another job. And I kept saying, I am not going to look for another job. I refuse to look for another job. So some of what I'm talking about, I had been doing it as a side hustle. You know how you do your little side hustle? Right.
That's what this show is all about, you know.
Right, my little side hustle
into a business. Yes, yes.
And I said, I got to make this real and I have to take myself seriously. So while I was on unemployment, I was really praying for a way out because I did not want another job. And what Allah gave to me was, you need some contract work. So I literally started looking for contract work.
Yeah.
Yes. And I started finding things. And what happened was I was blessed to stay in my field. So I got to do consulting under the safety net of a regular paycheck. Well, when some of those people found out that I was free, they were like, oh, okay, so you do this on your own? Well, guess what? I'm a lot less expensive than that expensive consulting firm.
Right.
So I got a few jobs here and there, but I realized that my financial stability was at risk. And what I had to go after was longer range contracts. So right now I have 3 contracts that sustain me. One of them is October through April, and that's with the Office Start doing evaluations, and 2 of them are with Head Start programs as a consultant. It might as well be a part-time job because the contracts are an annual contract. They have a lump sum of money that they say, this is your contract. And then as I'm offering services that are very creative and I do whatever they ask me to do, training, coaching, some of the things that you heard, facilitation, then I just invoice them monthly until, you know, the money runs out. And so because I've been able to, I can't wait to hear the interview with Brother Maceo. I try to deliver more than what I promised. All of the contracts, 2 of them are 5 years old plus, and 1 of them is 3 years old. So I'm at the point though, and Sister Sandy begged to argue with me on this a little bit. I still feel like I'm working for someone else. And the reason why I say that is because my company, Crescent Facilitation and Consulting, I want to offer my services in the way that I want them to offer, in the way that I want to offer them, and not that somebody's saying, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. Not that I don't love X, Y, and Z. I love training adults. I love doing adult education, workforce development. I absolutely love it. And I've come to love facilitation even more. And that's what I want to do, but it's a harder sell because people don't even know what it is.
Right.
So that's kind of how I got into it, Sister Sandy. And I thank Allah, I'm going into my 6th year. I got laid off in 2013. And I tell people I still have a house. I still have a car. I still eat good food. I can go get my organic vegetables and all of that. And I'm able to maintain, but I feel like I'm at a point where I need to level up now. So.
Okay. Brother Jahi, you asked who had the vested interest in not us not learning to read and whatnot.
Yes, ma'am.
There were 2 gentlemen whose job it was to redevelop education. You know, education was not public. Once they forced everybody into public education, they were doing it because you had all these immigrants coming from these European countries, and they needed factory workers. So they needed people to be able to sit in seats and just do what they're told to do. So that's I think Horatio Alger was one of them, and I can't remember the other.
Is that right?
Right, those 2, him and somebody else.
Who's the second person?
I can't remember right now. It'll come to me before it.
But Horatio Alger's okay, that's interesting because the only thing I know about him is pull yourself up by your bootstrap.
Right, yes. Yeah, but he was cut. They didn't give us no boots, so we ain't had no straps to pull them. That wasn't us.
That was a misnomer.
But what they
like you said, that wasn't for us, right?
No, because they needed people to be, number one, patriotic and obedient. Yeah. And so you were to be love America or leave it, just like that guy is talking in the White House. And you were supposed to be an obedient person, just be able to know just enough to pick up this piece of whatever and do it. That is a book. Okay, speaking of books, let me just throw some of them out there. One of them is called The Captains and the Kings. It's by this woman named Taylor Caldwell. She had to make her name sound like a man's name because they weren't letting women publish books at that time. Okay, she wrote this book called The Captains and the Kings. It breaks down how America became the way it is today. Because you remember, once upon a time, people were craftsmen. You made shoes, I made hats, sister made dresses. Then they made it. You go into a factory and all you do all day is put this button on the side of this shoe. All you do is pick up this chicken and put it on a hook, right? So the person who's now the worker has no pride in what he's doing. He just does it.
Yes.
And then what they did was, in doing that, they created people who, they didn't care whether you could read. They didn't care if you could comprehend. All you had to do was be a good worker. And this is what we have now. So we have, when you look at the rest of the world, some Israel says something about, there was an article about Israel being the top physicist in some competition. I'm like, well, we don't even have anybody in this country to compete. Who take physics? Yeah. You know, so all of that was designed, and it was to help who it is helping right now, which is that 1% who are getting all the money, because they made all the rest of us just slaves to in the factory. You know, you went from the plantation to the plant, same thing. So that's where the best interest in. And let me just say this: when I was in, I think I was in 3rd grade, they came up with the new reading and the new math.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The new reading was see Jane run, see Spot jump. And it was, you had to learn to read by just memorizing some words. Well, that worked for me. So I got to the 4th grade, because what happened was all those years before that, the word THE said the, right? Then you see THE in the beginning of the word theater, and you're trying to put the word the in it, and it's not working.
Right.
So that's how people got messed up in not learning how to read, because they had a vested interest, especially once integration hit. Once we get migration, you know, it was the once the migration hit, where so many Black people came north, then it was no, we got to stop them. We can't let them continue to get educated. So hence the new math and the new reading.
Yeah, and it actually it's actually continuing today.
Yes.
With, like I said, the removal of the arts.
Yes.
Why? They know that reading actually is a very creative process. You have to use multiple parts of the brain to be able to read. And so if they take the creativity away from us, reading actually essentially is a problem solving exercise.
Yeah.
So because you have to figure out, like you're reading a book, you got to figure out the plot and the characters and all that. And you have to put these pieces of this puzzle together. Well, as they continue to remove the creativity from us and the ability to be able to think. And so reading is directly connected to being able to think and problem solve and what they call cognition.
Yes.
So they've removed that and dumbed things down. So hence we have, we have Twitter. We have all of these things that continue, as the minister says, dumb us down until the point where
we got mumble rap.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's being perpetuated.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sister Samia, because I'm thinking as both of you are talking, trying to formulate this scenario and pose it into a question. I am fascinated by the early history of hip hop. We know it started in the Bronx. There's a book by the Black Dot, a brother out of the Bronx, the Black Dot, Dwayne Bowser, called Hip Hop Decoded, and he since redid it and has Urban Decoded, I think is the name of it. But in the book Hip Hop Decoded, he goes through the history, and where they start from is when the arts were taken out of the New York City public schools.
Right.
The ingenuity of Black people is absolutely phenomenal, because what happened, he talked about, okay, well, they took, like DJ Kool Herc took his mama's record player out into the park. They plugged into the pole in the park, grabbed some old carpet, brought that out, and we created this outlet, this creative outlet. So, you got the got hip hop, you got the rapping, the MCing, the DJing, the breakdancing, and the graffiti, which is art. And these were creative expressions. So even when it's taken away, we find ways to fill that void. And this is what we have. So now it was getting too effective. Last month, we had Brother Raheem on the show, who is a member of the Furious Five. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, the most prolific song, according to Billboard, the most prolific hip hop song of all time is The Message. The Message has a deep message in it. So these are young people that are writing, and they wrote words that here we are 40 years later, that have this profound impact on society. So I can see how when the enemy began to see the impact, like I ask Griff all the time with Public Enemy, the words that they were young men, early 20s when they got started as far as being known, but even they started earlier than that. But they're listening to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They're listening to Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Griff talks about how Public Enemy became so prolific because while they're in the studio, in the background, Griff got Dr. Ava Muhammad playing in the background. He got Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad playing in the background. He got Minister Farrakhan playing in the background. So they soaking all of this up and they put it, as Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Mr. Farrakhan, into this fine language.
Yes.
You know, and it was profound. So now come along the powers that be.
Yes.
They call us sleeping. They come along and say, wait a minute, this is too powerful. The youth are waking up.
Right.
So now they propagate this group out of the West Coast, NWA. Now they were unwilling participants. Unwilling, so they didn't realize what was going on. But they propped them up against a Public Enemy and a what's the other group?
Daddy Kane, Rakim, all of them.
All of them that were bringing knowledge. Right. Now they start talking about gangster. But this is important. This is the piece I'm trying to get to. Please indulge me. I'm listening to an interview just this past weekend with MC Ren of NWA. And you know, MC Ren, FOI, a couple of members in the group with NWA eventually came into the ranks of the Nation of Islam. But he talked about the competition that they would have, him and Ice Cube, on writing. They're showing the DOC. They're proud of, their lyrical writing ability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that's not highlighted. And because when you mentioned mumble rap, I was trying to think of how to introduce that. Now we don't understand nothing that they're saying. They created their own language, which I think is ingenious, but we don't understand it. And they're not really saying anything. It's about drugs and degradation, where these cats were competing against writing the most profound lyrics. And that has been usurped. So I guess back to the whole business aspect, we say it, but we see it on so many different levels, and that is business is warfare.
Right.
Business is warfare, and we're being attacked on so many levels. But now that we see it, now that we know these things, just like we asked Mr. Brown last week about the business is warfare, now that we know this, what are we going to implement to make sure that we don't continue to fall for the okie doke or the banana in the tailpipe? Now that we know, what can we do? Those that are listening, what can we do?
Okay, anybody can
somebody.
We have to get our children to understand that this time in their life, which is up until they finish college, is the time when they must learn. They must learn things that will allow them to not fall victim. So what we do, the messenger said, history best rewards our research, right? Because it unveils the springs and the motives. So when my students look at anything, they will see a news story and come in and go, Sister Samia, did you hear what so-and-so said? That's not right, because and so they're looking at, and I always tell them, I said, follow a white man with the money, okay? Follow
there
that.
You go. Right.
Why that is being done. I said, now, why are you asking you to do X, Y, and Z? So when marijuana became legal in some states and all these different things, I said to them, okay, let's explain something. I said, rules change. What they're giving you are rules. I said, Allah's laws do not change.
That's
so
right.
I took a handful of pencils and I held them up and I dropped them. I said, that's the law. That's God's
gravity.
That's never going to change. Because as long as we're on this planet, you drop something, it's falling. That's a law. I said, now all this other, I said, remember, slavery was a law at one point. So laws change. So you have to decide whether whatever rule they're saying you can now participate in, does it gel with the restrictive laws of Islam? If it doesn't, then we throw it out. So we have to get our children to be able to see past all the minutia that people are throwing at them and go, no, this is not good for us as a people, because it's going to make us end up doing this. And then how do they know? Because it happened before. The game's the same. They just keep changing names,
Right.
Because of the way I teach them how to study history, they're like, no, that happened when they blew up the Maine. That happened when such and such happened. So they understand this is
good.
So now we cannot allow our children to keep falling for the okie doke. They gotta be able to look at something and say, okay, 10 years from now, is this gonna be good for us? 20 years from now, is this going to be good for us? Is this good for us right now? What is it doing to us?
Right.
You know,
I'm glad you mentioned that about the rules changing, Sister Samia. And you say the children, which definitely is a focal point. The sad part is that we as adults and sometimes older adults, we fall for the okie doke. We had a guest on earlier this year. We had a conversation prior to the show. He asked me about the marijuana. Well, what was our position on marijuana? So we don't believe it. We don't deal with it. We don't believe in it. We're not falling for that trick. You know, everybody talking about now the money that you can be made with, you know, marijuana. So I told him that. He gets on the show and he tried to surreptitiously throw that out during the interview, and Sister Shireen just she stuck a fork in him, right? It was, and he had to buy. He said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize. Yeah, Brother Jahi did say that to me."
Right.
But he was caught up in the amount of money that can be. Number one, there's always a few of us that's going to make a little pocket change, but compared to the white corporate structures that control the whole thing, only thing we're doing is helping to exacerbate the further degradation of our community, because it's synthetic stuff that they're doing. Number one, that's driving people crazy. You know, driving our youth crazy because they out here smoking this synthetic stuff that we don't know what's in it, all under the guise of, well, it's legal now and you can make money selling it. So we have to not fall for the okie doke. That's my major point.
But that goes right back to English lesson C1. What does it say? We were offered gold more than we were earning in our own country. The key word is more. That means we already had gold.
Right.
We got greedy. And because we got gold, we got stuck over here. So we have to always kind of bring that scenario to our
beautiful.
Our children. Okay, you have a job. What's that going to happen? So more than we were earning, you already got this. So now how do we just develop what we have instead
what we already have? Right.
This carrot on the string thing. No, not more than we were earning in our own country. We got our own country first. Let's deal with let's deal with getting our own country. How's that?
That's right. Beautiful. Sister Wanda.
Yes.
Crescent Facilitation and Consulting.
Yes.
What does it do? What does that entity do? Who's the market that's listening? Somebody that's listening knows somebody that knows somebody that knows something about it, right? They are working for a major governmental institution or major corporate institution. I'm going to say major. I mean, somebody that's got the money that can sign a check with a comma in it. And they hear facilitation, they hear strategic planning, they hear communication skills, they hear third eye mind mapping, they hear ergokinesiologists, they hear expanding your literature base. They hear all of these things. They want to contact Crescent Facilitation and Consulting. How do they get in contact with you?
So I have an email address, and this is kind of funny. I'm working on my website. I'm almost afraid to launch the website, and I'll tell you why. Because I need to get to the point where I can expand and deliver. And I'm kind of busy right now, so it's difficult. But I do have an email address and a phone number. Should I go ahead and share that?
Sure, absolutely.
So my email address is Wanda, like my first name, FM, which stands for Francis Muhammad, Wanda FM this is a long one, but it's a company name, Crescent, like the crescent moon, -facilitation.com. So it's Wanda FM at crescent-facilitation.com.
Fantastic. So we're looking to hear for any of you that are watching this broadcast and your organization is in dire need of facilitation services. Where you have those meetings that last for 4 hours, but nothing gets accomplished. Facilitation.
So that's what I would like to just if Sister Wanda can share what has been the success that she has aided in any one company or organization. by way
Yeah,
of
Sister Shireen, that's a great question. So facilitation is the management of thinking and thinking processes and dialogue. So y'all are familiar with deliberative dialogue.
Yeah.
The magic of it is, Sister Shireen, goes back to what Sister Sandy was saying. When you get two or more together, and usually I'm dealing with groups of people for good. So people are coming together because they want to accomplish something. There is magic in the air when you have someone who can structure the dialogue, structure processes around that. And I don't think my dear sister Anisah Muhammad would mind me sharing. And this is interesting because I normally work with groups, and I usually work with leadership management. Really quickly, I worked with the state of Georgia to create a system for what you call TNTA, or consultants, to come up with competencies for them, and then come up with a whole system for how they would create portfolios and all that. But I really want to share about my sister Lisa, because she's a micro enterprise, one person business, who has Power Campus. And she had gotten to the point in her business where, like I am, she was getting overloaded. And that's a very dangerous place to be, because you can go under when that happens if you don't make a smooth transition. So her beloved husband, Brother Tavares, the HVAC business, actually paid for me to do a session with her. And that session looks like a 3 to 4 hour face-to-face session, followed by 2 Zoom sessions where we're actually getting into, and I'm gonna use your word, Sister Shireen, concretizing, that vision.
Not my word.
Yeah.
This is Lord Farrakhan's word.
Oh, okay. Stand corrected.
Yes.
But putting that into action.
For a video and belief in Allah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I do love it and use it. Yeah.
Yes, I love that word too. So the web sessions are to put together a plan. So what she was struggling with, she had her hands in too many things. She was doing everything, and she wasn't charging enough money. So we sat down and we did a kind of like a mind map. I love Mind Money Matters because it's about mindsets and mental models. And by us graphically representing her business as this mind map, we went through and did an evaluation of each aspect of the business, whether it was hands in, hands on, or hands off. And she had to make some decisions about what she was going to take her hands off of, what was she willing to give up and delegate to someone else. So the session went well, and I can never tell because I'm just facilitating the process. I don't know what's really going on in people's heads. And she didn't call me back. And I was like, dang, I still owe her 2 sessions. She hasn't called me. What is going on? A couple months later, I was able to get in touch with her. And she said, Sister Wanda, you have no idea of what has happened since we talked. I said, girl, tell me what happened. And through the reflection and looking at her business graphically and doing this evaluation and assessment, she discovered that she had a money block. And when I say a money block, it was a mindset around not wanting to ask people for money for services. Now, we did not discuss that. I just told her she wasn't charging enough money and she needed to face that reality. So as a result of her figuring out what that blockage was, she was able to go on and expand the business. She did decide she was going to charge more money, and she did it beautifully and gracefully. She let the parents know, I'm sorry, I have to charge more money. Here's why. She did lose some people, but the business actually did expand, and she was able to match her clients with the level and quality of services that she was providing. So to me, that's a story that warms my heart. I was so tickled, and I actually still owe her one more session. I've not forgotten. She's taken on a partner, and she said she's saving that last session for us to do some visioning with her partner. So that's one. So that's Power Campus.
That is phenomenal, Sister Wanda. And before we go, I want to make sure you gave us your email address. If you'd like to share your number for someone to reach out to you, please share that as well. Yes,
it's 404-786-4109. That's 404-786-4109. 4109.
Awesome. I'm done, y'all. Anybody want to close us out?
We're gonna,
Can I recommend
We have
some
a clip to show.
we have a, yes.
Yes, we have a clip to show. And
Last-
Sister Wanda, I just wanted to say this. You are glowing, and I know that you have mentioned this publicly, so I think it's okay. The fact that you are a cancer survivor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to write a book,
I
Sister
think that's
Shireen.
important because, yes, ma'am,
Yes.
because there's many of us that are going through this
Mhm.
and feeling like life may be over, doomed. And I'm looking at you today and looking at the glow. You would never know
Mhm.
that you
All
are
praise is due
a
to Allah.
cancer survivor, who is doing what you will through the will of Allah.
Yes, thank you, Sister Shireen. Can you poke me and remind me I need to write a book about that?
Yes. So how about
You
you
can help me market it.
How about you dictate the book? Maybe we can barter some services.
All right, that sounds like a plan.
And you can help me get my business organized.
Yes, ma'am.
Just doing business. That sounds like a
That sound like a
workshop.
Sister Sandy deal.
No, Sister Shireen, you got that. You got that. I'm gonna leave that between you and Sister Wanda.
Sandy for so long.
You got that.
I get it for that. I get it.
No, listen, I ain't saying nothing about it, but me and Sister Wanda got some other stuff going on. But you and Sister Wanda, y'all take that.
So,
I
before we,
my classroom. This is my classroom, so I'm learning. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Brother Jahi.
I was just saying before for our guests and those that are watching, before we sign out, we have a I don't know what we're gonna do, a 10 or 20-minute clip. But last Thursday, we had the privilege of interviewing Mr. Maceo Brown. Mr. Maceo Brown, as Sister Sandy said at the beginning of the show, a phenomenal businessman and community advocate here in Atlanta. I've been reading about this brother. I've been in Atlanta 34 years this year. And I've been reading about him almost since I got here, at least the second time I came in. Seeing his business, reading these interviews, and every interview I ever saw of him, he always talked about he heard a man speaking at Georgia State, and he talked about that man was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so he was inspired by the minister. He said he heard the minister that night, and he quit his job the next day and started his business. He and his wife in their living room, and he, in the interview, you get a chance to see. We're gonna do a premiere later on this month on the entire interview. But every room in his house was dedicated to a particular part of his business. But he shared some jewels with us. We had the opportunity to interview him at his plush, what he say, 30,000 square foot office building on Hamilton Road. He has an office space dedicated toward the youth. Maceo's Youth Entrepreneur, beautiful boardroom and things like that. But he didn't mind sharing these jewels. I want to thank him. Hopefully they get a chance to see this broadcast, but thank him again publicly and his staff, his team, because they open up their doors to us. And he didn't mind sharing. He is the only Black-owned security alarm company in the state of Georgia. He's been going at it now for 25 years with the alarm business, and then he had a electrical business 5 years prior to that. And he is a strong community advocate and one who is willing and looking to help out other budding entrepreneurs. So also, real quick, if those of you, if anyone is interested in selling, he has some sales positions open. And he has some installer positions open at System 5. So I just want to set that up. Sister Shireen and Sister Sandy and myself had the opportunity to interview him, and we're going to show you a little bit of what he shared right now. But we're going to do a premiere on our YouTube channel, which is Mind and Money Matters live show. We'll do a premiere very, very near future before the month is over. And so you get a chance to see the entire interview. It's about an hour, 15 minutes long, the entire interview of all the wisdom and the jewels that he shared. So if we're ready, Sister Shireen, Mr. Maceo.
Ready. Just wanted
Mr.
to make sure
Maceo Brown.
the System 5's electronic website, System 5 electronic website. And if you should decide to support your own and get your service, he also has the lowest rates in the home security, commercial security business. He has the lowest monthly rates. So and there's no cost to transfer. There's no cost to transfer. So if you should go with System 5, let them know that you heard it from Mind and Money Matters live show, and he will certainly take care of you. So now here we go with the clip.
Driver from your driveway.
That's right.
They're gonna fix the part, which probably cost them no more than $5 or $6. They're gonna walk away with a $150 check. They're making just as much as a doctor.
Right.
Kids don't know that.
Right.
All right. So now this is where one of the questions that we talked about the other day that we wanted to ask you is about legacy. So we see where the disconnect is. What is it that we must do starting right now to begin to pull out those among us, the youth in particular, to begin to teach them these trades so that we can build a viable community? What would you say to us and to the audience that will be watching this? What you can do right now is ABC. What would you say?
What you can do right now is you should start showing your kids early.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my mother showed me that. I was paying bills at 9 years old. Yes.
And you should have them working for something in your home.
Okay.
When we took out this week, it's 4 boys. My mother had, okay, it's your week to take out the trash. It's your week to wash the dishes. It's your week to cut the grass. It's your week to wash the car. And that's how you got paid. And my mother and father did not just give us money freely.
You had to earn.
We had to earn that money. When you teach a child from an early age
You appreciate
how
it.
they have to earn the money, they would appreciate it. If you give a child free money, that's not good.
Right.
So you have to be very, very cautious. That would be the first start I would do. And I would have the child out there working with you, cutting grass. I mean, I hate the way the school system have it now where you got to do 40 hours of community service. I felt that was just downgrade. You should have done 40 hours of working in a business that you want to inspire to be. So if you want to be a lawyer, then let's hook you up with a black law firm and you go there and work 40 hours. If you want to be an electrician, let's get you in an electrical company. You work there for free for 40 hours. Let's put you in the environment of what you want to do for the 40 hours. And then you see the results. See, a lot of kids, when I came up, I saw the American dream. And I think the way I saw it is, when we came up, we had park and recreation, okay? Because the police, they monitored us. You know, we became free slaves. The burnings was all over. So, okay, we create park services. We're going to create band. We're going to create little football, basketball, baseball. They kept us busy. Then they took us all to Lake Altoona, different park, and we would go and stay there for a week and learn how to live in the woods, how to build a fire, how to fish.
So you got outside of your little area. The moment I got outside of the 4 mile radius of where I live, then I said, woo, this place is bigger than what I have ever imagined. So if a kid doesn't see that at an early stage, he only knows what's going on in the proximity of it. So if you don't take him to the ocean, if you don't take him to Florida, and if he doesn't see that this world is much bigger than that little 5, 6 blocks,
he can't see the vision. So you got to open your kids' mind. They have to really see the truth of what's happening, because it's all hidden from you.
Well, you had mentioned, you mentioned, showing them how to pay their bills, and in that, we talked about a whole lot, which is the management of a home, management of life, and how the world works, how you can possibly fit in there. And I think what Brother Jahi mentioned about, getting, or you've been mentioning throughout the conversation, is getting students to be more involved
in learning the technology, learning the application, how to do something. You know, the university system has done an excellent job in advertising to parents the importance of going to college. And I'm not saying that college is not important.
Right.
You know, however, parents now are they turn their backs to the technology, learning technology. So I working in the school system and encouraging parents to help their students to get apprenticeship, to get license and certification in a technical area.
Right.
They look down on that. And like you said, they walking away with $150 check, right?
Right.
They're making six figures, you know, on a job using technology. But our children are not getting it until after 30, 40 years old. They messed up their lives and now they're trying to go back to school and learn something. And they can go straight from high school, or even while in high school, there's new enrollment programs. The things exist, but the parents don't want it. And the students don't want it because they've been taught that that's for the slow children.
Wow.
That's for, you know, that's not for a person who is aspiring to do great things. They want all of their students to go to an Ivy League or a liberal arts college. And now, so we have a saturation of degrees in liberal arts, you know, what the refers to majoring in the language. And so now you have a degree, but it does nothing for you. It doesn't serve you, or you can't serve it. You just like, you know, it's a stalemate. So with what you're doing and having the entrepreneurship program for young people, have you found that parents are open to the idea of their children learning something like security, which is, you know, I always talk about what other businesses do is sell products and services that is for everyone. Everyone needs security. Right. It's not just Black people, white, Asian. We all need security, right? So that's a product that's across the board. Right. Parents open to the idea of their students learning the business.
They don't really understand that the money's in it. I think that's most of your millionaires are trained.
That's right.
We know that someone who Bill Gates dropped out.
That's right.
Third year.
Facebook.
I don't need this because I've already learned the way. So once you learn how to operate a business, the sky's the limit. My dad used to always say, son, you go to college and you're going to be inside of the bubble. You go take a trade, the sky's the limit. You go as big as you can. So once you learn a business, cookie cutter.
Come on, that's right.
So it's so many ways. My wife came here. She came here with $1,000 student. Okay, she ended up running 4 clothing boutiques.
Wow,
and made a whole lot of money. Now we're real estate investors.
Come on now.
Manages over 28 properties.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Man, but there's so many ways that we can provide for ourselves. Everything that we wear, from our clothes to our earrings to our glasses to whatever you see, North America can do the same thing. It's no different. So we have to, as adults, understand that the money is in the trade job.
Yes, sir.
And they don't want you to be a part of that. You got to remember, when I went to the IW, it was called International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Right.
So the brotherhood is what I had to learn what that meant.
Okay.
That means everybody that was a part of the electrical, the plumbing, the carpentry, the engineer, they were all related. This is my brother, this is my cousin, that's my uncle. So in order for you to come in, you have to be related to be pulled in. Right. Oh, I have a cousin that's a part of the organization.
That's
okay,
right.
we'll let you in.
That's right.
Oh, I have a sister that's a part of the organization.
Yeah, my son.
Even welders are now making $30, $35 an hour.
Right.
Deep sea welders.
Right.
That are in demand. Now, the bad thing about it is these jobs are in big demand, but we're not producing them.
That's right.
So because one is they don't want to use us to do these jobs. They're looking for nationality. So when I go back to the IBEW, when I saw Blacks, I don't see that anymore. I see the Asians and I see the Spanish. So now they are replacing us in the election. because they say we do those. So even with the Democrats saying that there's nothing going on at the border, Trump saying that we got a serious problem. When all of a sudden now they see that it's a serious problem. And they want to blame it because the kids are there. Well, you knew it was a problem from the beginning. You knew they was coming here. But you know, they're looking for a fair shake. They want to lead their country. Right, there is no American dream.
Find out.
Okay? We're looking at it from a perspective, from a business standpoint, because there's 14 families that runs the world.
Come on now.
Is looking from a perspective to say, okay, let's bring this nationality in because we need them now to do this, this, and this. Because blacks are not going to do it. Why they're not going to do it? Because we're not teaching. Right. So the moment we start teaching them how to do it, then they can become successful. It's just like baseball. We took over basketball. We took over football. They took out Little League baseball out of the black community. So now when you go to a baseball
you don't see any black, there are no black baseball players.
Many black players anymore. We bring them in from different countries. Because the Dominican we have so many people here in this country, different nationalities that live here. I'll go to a baseball game because I want to see the Hispanic guy. I'll go to the basketball game because I want to see the Asian guy. That's why I'm going there. I'm not going there because they're blacks. I'm seeing a different group because we have so many different nationalities. So that's why soccer is so big. Soccer showed up out of nowhere because there's so many Spanish that are here.
That's right.
So they fill up the stadium with soccer. And then what did the mayor do? The mayor gave him a free ride.
That's
he
right.
gave Arthur Blank tax-free deal, which is the worst deal ever been put together in government. Right. This man got a tax-free ride to get in here.
And then don't have to share the profits.
Don't have to share the profits. So either I can give to you or I don't have to give.
So they were looking at it for football reasons, but before the Falcons played their first game, they'd already run 1 million people through Mercedes-Benz on the soccer field. 1 million people already gone through the doors.
Yeah, so they're making so much.
They make it so right.
So when I go and I'm a member of the 755 group at the Braves Station,
yes, sir.
3 blacks out of about 200. When I go up there and sit amongst when I have my conversation, even Arthur Blank got the first design food table, #1. All of those people are friends with each other.
Yes.
What did you do? Oh, I painted the stadium. What did you do? I provided the toilets. What did you do? I provided the napkins. What did you do? I provided the straws. What did you do? I provided the sign. All provided something for that stadium.
That's right.
That made them all welcome. So it ain't like we came in and said, I'm going to build something, but I want you to open up a cup. I want you to open up a straw cup. I want you to open up ketchup cup.
Right.
I want you to do the mustard.
Right.
All of these little things together made all them rich. So we still decide we're the consumer, and they want to keep us as the consumer. The moment we wake up and we buy from each other, we'll start putting them out of business. It's just like all the liquor stores. They're not owned by us. They don't live in our community. They got the right to open up the stores on Sunday, so they can buy their liquor on Sunday because we go to their games, and they go back up to Roswell.
That's right. Gwinnett County.
Same thing with the cigarette smoke. Same thing. They tell you it gives you cancer. As long as they put on the label,
they warned you. Right.
What they did with our young blacks.
Are you done?
That's tobacco. Yeah, I'm getting kids. When I go to the cancer treatment center, I'm seeing kids that are 30, 35, and 40 with lung cancer.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know any better.
And it's no filter. Straight no filter.
Straight no filter. Didn't know any better. They just sitting there thinking that's the thing. And then we have pants that's hanging down off of us, which now makes us undesirable. Okay? So I'm not going to hire you home because the way you look. No one is going to hire you home because you're looking crazy. That's why they call them underwear. It's under the wear. It's not for us to see it. But our politicians try to pass a law saying this is wrong. And then the mayor and them says, no, we're not going to do that because we don't want to tie up the police department to go around and tell everybody to plug their pants. But it's not if I don't do that. It's like Dr. King said, if I do not stop to help sanitation workers, then what will happen to them?
Right.
So it's the same scenario. If we do not stop to help what's happening with these kids, then what's going to happen to them?
Right.
But none of us are stopping to accept what is going on with these kids.
Mr. Brown, we really thank you for the time that you've given us. This has been most inspirational. With your Maceo Youth Entrepreneur Program, you say you had to stop it while you were going. Are you planning to reinstitute it? And if so, what can we do as Master the Science of Business, Mind and Money Matters Live show? What can we do to help with that program?
Well, my goal now is to get the CEO roundtable off the ground so we can buy back the property in our community and buy back the businesses in our community. Because until we can give a small child a job,
He talks about that. Sister Shireen talks about that all the time.
So me having a young entrepreneurship program is not going to work if you're not going to buy into it.
Gotcha.
If you're not going to buy into it, it's not going to work. So we have to employ our own. We have to learn that all of our kids are good kids. All our kids are very intelligent.
Yeah, definitely.
What the minister said.
Definitely.
So we as a people, I mean, you got to understand, we are very intelligent people.
Yes.
We're probably one of the most intelligent
No
people
doubt.
on the planet.
No doubt.
If you go back and look at the things that we have invented, we have superseded so many different things that what we've never gotten credit for. We've only made other people rich off of our ideas.
Right.
So
Right. Absolutely.
it's just, I think I got to get to see, we got to take that out the union.
Okay.
Because we're getting ready to lose it. And we're going to really lose it real fast in the next 5 years.
Right. But with people like yourself and with the ideas that you have, the CEO roundtable, give us a perspective of that. And then those that are watching, how can they contact you here at System 5 Electronics?
Okay. The CEO roundtable was designed to create generational wealth. Okay, that's what it's designed. That means that we're going to build at least 200 vegan restaurants throughout the Black community.
Wow.
We're going to provide services in our Black
Beautiful.
community. We're going to hire people inside of our Black community.
That's
So if you look at what Chick-fil-A has done, look at what Longhorn's done, they call them owner-operators.
That's right. That's
So that
right.
means I'm going to buy the dirt of organization, CEO roundtable. I'm going to build the building. I'm going to use my own electrician, plumber, carpenter, heating and air that's a part of the circle. So the dollar never leaves the circle.
We want to provide the straws.
And then so that dollar never leaves. You see what I'm saying? And as we build 200-300 stores, and the residual money that comes out the end comes back to your family. So when you're dead and gone, your family that you have willed this generational wealth to is going to continue to feed them. Because the stores are going to continue to grow up.
That's right.
So once you create an idea like this where the money doesn't leave the community, doesn't leave the circle, it recycles itself, you have generational wealth. And you put the competitor out of business very quickly there. Because as long as you're not shopping from him, you're going to put him out of business. Then once we get these restaurants, we're going to identify something else. We're going to identify something else. And we're going to take over these businesses and then stop buying from people that don't really want to do it. That's the only way out at this point in time. You must put the pain on them that the pain is on you. You don't put the pressure on them, you got a problem. Transfer the pain. Right? that's what Dr. King said on his last speech.
Yes.
We're just going to transfer some of the pain.
That's right.
So since you're not going to help us with the garbage collectors, we'll stop buying from you. And then if you start feeling the pain, you're going to say, okay, let's go ahead and give them what they should.
Now, I got to ask you this, and I'm sure Sister Shireen and Sister Sandy got to close our question, but what you just mentioned is fantastic. We're on board. We're on board. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that business is warfare. Now, to institute this plan, which is going to be successful, because we're also taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that by the mere fact that Allah gave you the idea mean that it's possible and to be successful. I think some areas, you alluded to this a few moments ago, where we missed out on not understanding that business is warfare. So it's going to be that opposition. I'm sure there's going to be a plan in place to brace ourselves to not just absorb the opposition, but also to fight the opposition. So what's your perspective on the business as warfare?
Well, I mean, that's kind of white Americans are always going to come after us.
Yeah, right.
You've just got to know in your heart that you're doing the right thing.
Come on, okay.
You've got to know deep down in your heart that you're doing God's work. If you're doing God's work, then God will take care of your enemies.
Okay. I mean, I agree.
He's going to slowly take. Just like I said, everything is being feel right now what's going on in the White House.
Which is actually helping us out.
Yeah, it's helping us out.
It's helping us out.
We see what's going on.
It's like you said, it's obvious.
Yeah, and then all of them are getting locked up. That's even better because now we see how many cooks there are. So we're losing a lot of cooks. They're all being locked up.
Wonderful.
So we just gotta come together. I mean, and I know blacks and Muslims, we've got to make sure we build that bridge amongst each other. See, the biggest thing is we've got to do is we must come together.
We come together.
We're all one.
That's right.
Okay, and even though your religion is different,
right.
My mother was a Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
My father was a Baptist.
All right.
Okay, so and then I studied the Holy Quran. So when I hear everything that I hear, it's still one message.
It is.
God, Allah, or who you want to call
Right,
it.
right.
The Spirit is inside of each one of us.
That's
so
right.
the power is inside of each one of us. It's up to us to believe in ourselves, and the universal law takes care of itself.
Beautiful.
Universal law will bring.
So you're a preacher too?
I know.
You're a preacher as well?
I know, right?
Oh, you're teaching, brother. Yeah.
Man, I've learned so much.
The best businessman was that man they called Steve.
And he was a carpenter.
And he was a carpenter.
The trade.
The best businessman. So that's what the masses believe in. Right. And then business is first. You know how to have a business and do a business, and people need the service, and
right.
You become very relevant. You are always
and they're giving
never give up. Don't ever give up. The biggest thing is do not give up. Learn what your marketing is. Market within the 5-mile radius of where you are starting out.
That's a jewel. That's a jewel.
Don't go to marketing way out here, way out there.
Within the 5
you're
miles.
missing all of your diamonds and jewels that's right there around you. So you work on that part first, and then you blossom out. You go forward.
Okay.
You go blossom.
All right.
So it's so important that we come.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. We're willing to do whatever.
It's not even two. We're so fragmented.
Right.
We're in millions of pieces.
Right.
I wrote a book, Wild with My Headpiece, and I think I'm not even counted how many different female Black women representing different ideologies and thoughts that cover their head. And it's Wild with My Headpiece. So it's like all of them are wearing it for the same reason, but the different looks identifies them with a different group. So you identify, a police officer from a fireman, even though they're both public service, but because of the way they dress, right? But I wanted to get to the point of you talking about, you mentioned in every statement, I think, we're going to go back and look at the video, but you mentioned, I believe, in every statement that we need to learn or be taught, and so we're taught, the most honorable teachers us that we have to be because we have been educated to hate self. Correct. We have been educated, and one of the things you mentioned in the beginning, and talking about options and not having any option, right? The option that they do have is Sarab cards. One of the top selling video games is Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, Call of Duty. Call of Duty is killing up everyone, and then Grand Theft Auto is really good, literally sticking people up, stealing their car, or breaking in cars, and it's a game that they play by the masses. So they're learning. They're learning what to do, and how to get what it is that they need when their backs is up against the wall. So with all that you mentioned here today, the last question that I have for you is, what would be the number one call to do for the average person who would watch this video? Because we are making an attempt to teach. We are making an attempt to re-educate ourselves. We come together under the banner of Master the Science of Business because the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that in the HBCU's original charter is to never teach us the science of business. What he says is the science of warfare. Mama Miss Lewis Farrakhan teaches us that business is warfare.
Okay, so we we have gone way over, and so we we just wanted to make sure that we brought that to you, and inshallah, we could get the audio brought up because I was straining. So I know, and I was in the interview. I was having a difficult time hearing it. So inshallah, we'll be able to get that audio sound improved so we can actually play it in its entirety on another occasion where you can hear his responses to that. But what he was talking about is our young people. He shared a story of his car being broken into, and he calling the police and how they responded or their lack of response to his being in need of assistance. And he mentioned several times in his conversation about the need to teach and train, and the need for our young people to learn a trade and learn business, to utilize that trade in a business and things of that nature. So that was the gist of his conversation. And he was saying that our children are not learning, we're not providing our children with the opportunities to get a trade. Now, these opportunities are out there. So we're hoping that you can be inspired to allow your children to get a trade. Most states, to learn a trade is virtually free. Like a lot of the trade schools that are state funded are free or 90% paid for or 80% paid for. Most of them are 100% paid for. But for some reason, we're thinking we don't need that, and we do. Because with that trade, they can start a business and they can actually do extremely well with that. So as we talked about adult education and the importance of literacy and learning to read and ridding ourselves of the barriers such as embarrassment, feeling insecure, all of those things. If you know you need to learn to read, get someone to assist you with reading. We thank you for taking this extended time with us. Brother Jahi, am I closing out?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. See y'all next week. Mind the Money Matters live show.
Yes.
Listen,
Right.
like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Sister Sandy, did you have any parting words?
No, I want y'all to come back for the remainder of that interview. So many jewels that our brother was sharing with us, as you could see just in that clip that we shared with you. So many jewels, so much insight, so much wisdom. And it's the type of insight that you and I, the average person, will not get. So please, please come back and join us so that you can get the complete interview and what our beloved brother shared with us. And so it can transform your life, your family's life, and your business. Love you all. Ashe, what's up, Hotep, assalamu alaikum, and all of that good stuff. Peace.
And so, I'm like,